Okay, y'all, let's get into the birth of the man-child and the parable of the home birth and that home delivery as these things come to America and that great tribulation set is in, because it's going to start opening, and it's already opening as 9/23/24 marks the end of the 7 years of the woman covered in the sun. And now you're going to get the spiritual into carnal, where the woman is covered in the sun. And this is part of that lady that comes to ride the beast known as Come Allah and Come All Law and these other things that we're being told. Ka, the crow says. The Melil. And that Melil is tied to the armies that gathered, and that Facebook of life was closed, and now it's going to be opened as that censorship is coming to knock the beast on the head to help him wake up a little bit. So that book of life is being opened. This is part of that dead rising. The armies have gathered. They were shot to death, in a matter of speaking. Sometimes you can take one shot or two shots or three shots in battle, but there comes a point in time when you're just gonna bleed out, and that bleed out is coming for that bleeding, ding ding ding. The spinal tap, that amp is turned up to 11 as you're gonna get your epic do-reel for your host Patel. All right, and the host Patel has already been opened up by the Abaddon and Abaddon, because they have the keys to the pit. And the armies gathered, and they went into bat tells. Oh, okay, turn my bat. The 24-hour labor at home. This can lead to a hospital visit. A little story. Our first child, we've had all of our children at home. The first child, we ended up having to go from home to the hospital. And this is because we had a midwife with two helpers, and these two helpers came over and started reaching in or whatever, and they basically signaled an early birth per se. So labor was over a certain time where we had to go, according to the law or whatever, we had to go from one to the other. All right. So it just so happens that we didn't go into the C-section area, even though they gave the wife the epidural. It did not take in the spine per se, which did not lead to the other complications. Either way, there's a great documentary Ricky Lake did about births and things that I highly suggest everyone watch if you are thinking about having a kid or whatever. All right, maybe some light for another tunnel, because we're only shown one light, that begotten sun, and as that begotten sun is going to be taken out and going dark, that's where these other lights have been established. So the birth of the man-child, the Labor Day, the second coming of the Lord. Adon means the Lord. You're under his backstage area, his second coming, where that mid-deal on that table is being laid out, and the Lord's wrath is setting up. And as the Lord's wrath sets up and opens up, this is where you get the great tribulation setting open, and the 9/23 24 marks the end of the 7 years. So that's when you have the Great Tribulation opening, and that's when that sets in. All right, so that's where you see Kamala's already serving 3.5 years. We got the half a year, and then you got the 3 years after. And that lines up with the dates we've been tracking for a while and leads to that alphabet zone. And then so-called Part 3 on Back to the Future was filmed in Arizona and California. And these are symbolic speak, but that AZ is for that alphabet, and that's that 26 and 26 and 27 if you count the and sign for the DNA sign, and that's for the DNA for that stuff and the overlays on that stuff. But I'll get into another video with the overlays with Back to the Future as a foundation and things stacking on, and how the net works, and or like the Matrix per se. Either way, so the man-child, this Labor Day, the second coming, the insemination, those things, this is all lining up in that global switch or whatever. This is where you find out you're pregnant or whatever, and that image that's given life, that you go to the doctor, right? And see your baby and such. This is part of those times, and that image given life there or whatever is there to mark and sear those in the marked in the right hand. Okay, and the right hand is the heart, and this is where you're following this, and this is where a nation is being gathered that does this, that, and the other. And it's a corrupt, wicked nation when you go back and look at whatever. So all the stuff that is, this is where the nation is divided by the bowels and the belly. The serpent's part of the belly, and this is part of the food. The food's going to be taken. They're going to force detox on you in a way, but they're going to hand you free socialism or free money or whatever. And it's going to be in where you can only buy this type of food or this type of ingredients or whatever. You're not going to be able to buy the crap food or whatever. That can be where that carbon tax in another way, where you're going to have to, they're going to have Snickers bar, but you're going to have to pay $10 for it or whatever, because this, that, and the other has been gathered, and it says this is toxic or whatever, and it breaks down the machine, or however they're going to do it, right? It's going to be freedom is only within the constraints of the law. All right, this is what Elon's pointing out. So this is where the Bell worship and all these other, they're playing out in different ways, but and the Masons versus the Mason, right? So Washington, it tells us, well, we're based on Christian values, but the Christian value is either based on what Jesus says or what Moses or Paul says, which is the outward or inward Jew, which Jesus says is the synagogue of Satan. And this is where they're judged by their works, because the books are being opened for the Facebook of life. And since they're being opened, that censorship, that rod of iron is coming to knock the beast on the head, because they are judged by their works, because they're seeking salvation in the carnal church. Okay, and this is why they give their 10% and their begotten and their time and all this other stuff. And they don't have any life for themselves, because this light over here, this light over here is keeping them busy, keeping them stressed, keeping them depressed, keeping them pulled at every which angle. You got to get up early for school, take your kids to this light. You got to go to work, then you got to go to whatever practices after school, then you got to go to church group, you got to go get all this stuff, dude. You're in bondage, and it's all being taught to you, this, that, and the other. While Tommy dies on the field, or Nancy breaks her arm, or whatever, okay, and then you got this test of man going on, where you have these professionals and this Hollywood and these stuntmen or whatever coming on and doing these things or whatever, and your kids watching it think it's real, just like we thought Rambo was real and shit back when we were 5 years old, being taken to the rated R movie for the first time or whatever. And then from that day on, you're going and playing fucking Rambo. And then now we basically have it to where we can do drone wars and where we don't even need to go into battle. We just sit down with a monitor and play a fucking game and play war games. So that's where we're kind of going. anyways, the labor, the insemination, this Labor Day, 9/2/24, takes you 9 months, 6/2/25. That's the mirror on the 6/2/92. And that takes you from the 26. So that's 6/2 on the 25, and that clock takes you to the 26 on that alphabet zone for 2026. That takes you to the 26 on 9/11, which is 2027, which is lining up for the 48. So the birth of the man-child is when the people are like, do I go with dad or do I go with mom? For that divorce. Or you can be a foster child and go with this person you don't even know and be an orphan or whatever kind of thing going on. But we got the herbs, the Herbies for the birth kits. We got that squirt bottle. The squirt bottle, they drink the 2 kila. The 2 kila, the law is the custom amp, and that Luciana, that Lou for that crapture, the stalls. And then you got the box, the M-pox, that's part of the box the kit comes in and those things. And the monkey pox is tied to the monkey men and the evolution and the Big Bang and all that other stuff. And the Big Bang can come with the censorship, can come with your grains, the rains being pulled back for your beer and your ales and all this stuff. They may have alcohol, but it's going to be expensive alcohol or whatever. Like all your cheap shit will be taken out. And this is part of the mark of the buy and sell, the marked kit, the birth kit. That birth, the earth, the bee earth. The bees are going to rise up and fly and go to and start a new hive, per se. A hive-E. And that's the Ha-Y-E. And that's the Ha-Y double L or double I, the 99. That's the 81, the 8T1 with the 8 for the Last Supper, for the win and the 1. For the light, the God. The squirt we see as a drink too, but this is what they drink in Mexico or whatever with their tequila. And then tequila has the worm, and then people took the ivermectin, and then they're showing this, that, and the other with boar's head and the worms with undercooked pork, the parasites or whatever, and then the moon comes, and then this, when the moon comes out and when the worms come out, Kamala, she's the moon, and this is the worms, the war. Either way, folks, the birth of the man-child, this pray go, the wolves are among you, the sheep are there, the beast men. Revelation tells you that the beast men are those who are holding the testimony of Jesus Christ, and Jesus warned you that in end times that they will be teaching that he is the Christ, and this is part of the worship of his name and number, the mark in the right hand given to you by the king / the government, and that was seared in your hands a long time ago, and it was brought to you by the church first, and it seared it, and then it was released. And then after a certain time, the people are so seared and blinded, Jesus says, it's the blind leading the blind. It's the children of hell. They are seeking salvation. They're the ones judged by their works. And their works are coming. They love their work. Their slavery. Give us our slavery. Give us our bondage. Cash is king. Keeps you bondage. You got to go there to get your cash out, all this other stuff. Well, we can't keep it inside because somebody will break in and take it all. It's not what Jesus said, just let him take it. So there's like different, Jesus taught socialism. He said that money has the king's face on it. It's his money. He can do whatever he wants with it. Y'all are just slaves. That's why Bible teaches slavery. Jesus teaches freedom.